Hi everybody, very welcome to my channel. I've not been doing videos lately, but I am back now and I'm going to be doing a video for you today. So what we're going to be making fish cakes that's suitable for the Dukan diet. But you don't need to be on the Dukan diet to enjoy them. Everyone can enjoy them. So we're going to just talk a little bit about what we're going to be putting in them and what we're going to serve them with. So let's have a look at our ingredients here. So we're going to have a bit of hake. This is just white fish, so it doesn't have to be hake. I've got 450 grams of that here. Then to give it a little bit of a taste, because hake can be very plain, we're going to add a little bit of chili, not all of these. And then I've got some lime leaves, some nice fresh ginger. I've also got some garlic in the back here, a little bit of onion, and some lovely fresh coriander. If you've got some fresh lemongrass, that would be great. I don't have any, so I'm going to use the dried one. So it's kind of an Asian style fish cake. Then to hold it all together, we're going to not use the yolks, only the whites. These are two very small eggs, so if you've got large eggs, just one large egg white. And that will be going into our fish cakes. And then there's one more ingredient. Now when you're on the Dukan diet, flour is very limited in the second phase. So I'm going to explain to you which flours you can use if you're on the cruise phase. And if you are on a gluten-free diet, then obviously use your gluten-free flour. So this is the major difference between, normal fish cakes and Dukan fish cakes. You need to really look at the flour. So let's talk a bit about it. Now I've got some ground almonds here, which is really like almond flour. And you're allowed 20 grams of that as a tolerated item on your vegetable days. So you can either use that, or you can use coconut flour, which you're also allowed 20 grams as a tolerated item. Or you can use your chickpea flour, which you can use a little bit more actually. You can use up to 30 grams for a tolerated item. And then it's not actually officially on the list of Dukan flours, but because it's made from quinoa, and quinoa is a grain, it's protein, I think you would be okay to use a little bit of quinoa flour in your fish cakes, but if you are a bit worried, then rather use the recommended flours. So it's only a small amount, 75 grams. So you can either mix them up a bit or just use one of these different flours. So that will be everything for the fish cakes. Then if we move over here, we're going to be making a little sauce. So we're going to be using our plain yogurt. This one is a Bulgarian one, it's 3.6% fat. And then we're going to be using those egg yolks from the fish cakes. So we'll be adding them to make a little mayonnaise. And then we'll take it a step further and turn it into a tartar sauce. And even one step further, we add a little bit of anchovies to make it into a remoulade. So for the tartar sauce, I've got some homemade fermented pickles, and then a little bit of capers and a little bit of dill. And then if you wanted to, you could chop a little bit of parsley, add that as well. You could also add a bit of lemon zest, or you can just keep your lemon for a bit of garnish. So I'm going to do some preparation here of the ingredients, and then we will be back to just quickly put them together. I'll show you how they come together, and then we're going to cook them, and then we'll prepare our sauce. Okay, so I've chopped the fish in chunks and I've made sure that it's very dry. And now I'm going to blend it, pulse it a bit in here, so it's really fine. So whatever you want to use, you can chop it with a knife But yeah, you don't want it to be a puree, so you just want it to be nice fine flakes. I'll show you the kind of idea. So it's like that. Okay, so you just want it nice and loose. I see there's still another big piece here, so we're going to just give it another couple of seconds. There we go. Let's have a look, see. Yeah, that looks good. That looks perfect. Excellent. So find yourself a nice bowl, big bowl, and I'm going to mix this by hand. You can use gloves. Us chefs hardly ever use gloves if we do stuff like this at home, that is, but you're welcome to use some gloves because you might have fishy fingers after this. So there we go. So that's the fish nicely done. Beautiful. So now we're going to add all the stuff we've chopped. This is about 3 or 4 tablespoons of coriander, finely chopped. I'll put the ingredients on the screen. This is 1 onion, this size, finely chopped. Then I've got a nice piece of ginger. I used probably about half of this piece because we like ginger, so it's quite a bit of ginger. But I feel this fish really needs a bit of flavor. Then this is our garlic. I used 3 cloves of garlic. This is our lime leaves. I used 4 little leaves and they are lovely. They smell so wonderful. Then in here I've got chilies. I used 2 of these size chilies. They're not that spicy because we don't like it too hot. And then I'm going to add some lemongrass. So this is very fine. It's almost like a powder. So last time I used about a tablespoon. You can use a bit less. This has gone a bit lumpy, so just squash that down. So that's that. And then a little bit of salt. So I use about a teaspoonful of salt. But you can use a little bit more or a little bit less, or you can even leave it out. There we go. And then the last final thingy on the seasoning side is a bit of black pepper. There we go. And now I'm going to give that a light mix, just to get all those lovely herbs and flavorings and seasonings nicely mixed. And at this point you will see if there's any big lumps of fish, which it seems like there is not. And then the next thing I'm going to add is my flour. This is about a 50-50 mix of the coconut flour and the quinoa flour. You just tip that in there. And then I've got the 2 small egg whites, but you can use 1 large. So it doesn't really matter in which order these things go in. I'm going to mix them all together. And this should now come together like a ball, you know, so it should stick together. If it doesn't stick together, you might want to add a little bit more egg white. If it seems really wet, you want to add a little bit more of your flour. But what I've done here is, the recipe is 75 grams of flour, but even if you use up to 80 grams, that would be 4 tolerated items. So if you make 8 fish cakes and you just have 2 of the 8 fish cakes, then you are within your limit of your 20 grams of tolerated flour. So this is lovely. This is coming together nicely. So I'm going to try and divide this roughly into 8 little bits. There we go. And you'll see it's just a nice size. So squeeze them all together, and then I'm going to shape them in your kind of typical fish cake shape. And there you go. So I normally get about 8 of that size out, some of them slightly bigger or smaller. So I'll just finish these off. Okay guys, so the pan is nice and hot. I've just given it a little spray of olive oil, and now I'm going to put my fish cakes in. So we managed to get 8 out. So we just put them in the pan. I'm aiming for medium heat here, and I just want to get them to be nice and golden on the one side, and then we'll turn them over. But they do cook quite quickly, so about 3-4 minutes on each side depending on the heat. And you could always put a lid on at the end to kind of steam them so that they cooked right through. But you can check them with a temperature probe, or you can just press them. They'll be quite jumpy, a little bit bouncing back. Okay, so that's been about 3 minutes, and the pan was a little bit high maybe, but they've got some color on them. We can't deny that. Golden brown is what we're really looking for. There we go. So I'll give them another 3 or 4 minutes on that side, and you could even add a tiny little bit of water to the pan and put a lid on to steam them, but I like to keep them nice and dry, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, so while our fish cakes are cooking, we're quickly going to make our sauce. So I'll show you the 3 steps. We'll start off with a simple Dukan mayonnaise, then we'll turn it into a tartar sauce, and then 1 step further to make your remoulade. So let's have a look here. So I've got my egg yolks here, 2 very small egg yolks. You can just whisk them a little bit. There we go. And then I'll put them in here. But if you've got large egg yolks, then just 1 egg yolk is enough. You can also use a cooked egg yolk if you want. And then I'm going to just add a nice big spoonful of our plain yogurt, and you just kind of fold it through. This one is slightly grainy, but you can get a nice smooth Greek yogurt if you're worried about the texture. There we go. So normally on 1 egg yolk you need maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons of yogurt. There we go. You don't really have to whisk it so much like traditional mayonnaise. It's more of a folding action. And then I've not put mustard on with my egg yolk, but you can just like a teaspoon of mustard, just to give it a little bit of a kick. So the mustard can go in the beginning with the egg yolk. It's up to you. And now at this point you can season it with salt and pepper if you want. I'm not going to, because we've used the mustard. So in here I've got a little bit of chopped onion. It's up to you how much you want to use. I might just go for a big tablespoonful, a little bit more. And then I'm going to use some of my lovely homemade fermented pickles. So here we are. So we're going to chop that up. These quantities is really personal taste. You can decide. And then I'm doing a little bit of capers. I normally do about a tablespoon full of capers, depending on how much sauce. So you can chop it really fine, or you can leave it slightly chunky, completely up to you. I like to actually see a little bit of chunkiness in there. Oh, the bay leaf doesn't need to be here. So that's nicely finely chopped now, so that's going into our sauce. So for the capers are in there, the gherkins are in there, and then I'm going to put a little bit of dill. If you've got fresh dill, it's obviously better. So I'm going to use about a tablespoon, but if you've got fresh, you can even use more than that. So here we go. So now we basically have a tartar sauce. Some people like putting a bit of fresh parsley through that as well. It's completely up to you. So if we stop that sauce right here, that would be tartar sauce. But on the Dukan diet, you are allowed to add a little anchovy. Dr. Dukan kind of recommends us to have nice flavor. And so what I'm going to do, I'll probably, let's see the size of these guys. Okay, so on this amount of tartar sauce, I'm going to use 2 little fillets. So you just dice them really finely. And they also give you a little bit of saltiness, and that's why I didn't add additional salt, because with the mustard, you've got a bit of salt. With the anchovies, you've got a bit of salt. So there we are, that goes in as well. I'm going to give it a good mix. There we go. And now we're just going to check on our fish cakes. So, okay, so we're just going to check our fish cakes. We're looking for about 63 degrees Celsius. This one is already 65, so he should be cooked. But make sure you check the thickest fish cake in the pan. For instance, this guy. Let's see how he's doing. And make sure it's in the core of the fish cake. There we go, 63. Brilliant. So our fish cakes are cooked, and now we're just going to serve them. Okay, so our fish cakes are ready, so we're going to just kind of plate them up here now. I'm thinking maybe I'll do them on a big platter. Here we go. There we are. So about 4 portions here, if you take 2 per portion. Then I've just got a little bit of lemon wedges here. Just going to scatter them around the place. There we go. There we are. These are just a little bit of garnish. I think the chilies are very pretty. Use them. Got a bit of cherry tomatoes here from our garden. Been blessed with many tomatoes this year. And a little bit of fresh parsley just to finish that off. Put one on the sauce if we wanted. There we go. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've learned something today, that fish cakes doesn't have to be boring. So pack those flavors in there, and if you don't like the Asian flavors, you can add your own herbs and spices. And please leave us a comment once you've made them, or if you've looked at the video and watched it. Your comments are always welcome. We want to wish you a wonderful day and good luck with your journey.